Couldn't see them. I guess.
Couldn't see.
10 seconds, councillors. Just starting the recording as well.
Welcome everyone to the Ordinary Council meeting of the 5th of April 2022. Because we have a couple of councillors today online, I'll do a bit of a roll call first. So Councillor Ma, can you see and hear us?
I can certainly see and hear you, Mayor.
And Councillor Stevens, can you see and hear us?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I can see you and hear you.
Thanks, councillors. Members of the public gallery should note that the council records and publishes council meetings via YouTube to enhance the accessibility of council meetings to the broader Wellington community. These recordings are also archived and may be published on council's website for viewing by the public or used for publicity or information purposes. At the appropriate times during the meeting, members of the gallery may address the council, at which time their image, comments or submissions will be recorded. Members of the public who are not in attendance at the council meeting but who wish to communicate with the council via the online web form should lodge their questions or comments early in the meeting to ensure that their submissions can be dealt with at the end of the meeting. Please, could gallery visitors, councillors and those invited online attendees ensure that mobile phones and other electronic devices are turned off or in silent mode for the duration of the meeting. Can we please stand for the acknowledgement and prayer? We acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land, the Gunai-Kurnai people, and pay respects to their elders past and present. Almighty God, we ask your blessing upon the Wellington Shire Council, its councillors, officers, staff and their families. We pray for your guidance in our decisions so that the true good of the Wellington Shire Council may result to the benefit of all residents and community groups. Amen. Please sit down. Apologies. We have one. Councillor Wood is an apology today. Item 2, declaration of conflicts of interest. I believe we have none. Item 3.1, adoption of minutes of previous council meeting. Can I have someone to move that, please? Councillor Rossetti.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that council adopt the minutes and resolutions of the ordinary council meeting of 15th March 2022.
Is that motion... So can I have someone to second that motion first, please? Councillor Crosley. Is that motion opposed? If not, that motion is carried. Happy with that, Councillor Rossetti. Item 4, business arising from previous meetings. There is none. Item 5, acceptance of late or urgent items. There is none. Item 6, notices of motion. There is none. Item 7, receiving of petitions or joint letters. We have an outstanding petition which we will acknowledge at the next council meeting. Item 8, invited addresses, presentations or acknowledgements. Do we have someone to do that?
Councillor Ripper.
So presentations, acknowledgements?
Councillor Ripper.
Acknowledgements. Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I'd like to acknowledge the Fed bushwalks that was held at Lycola on the weekend of the 25th of March. I was invited up there to give a welcome from the Wellington Shire. I've been to Lycola on numerous occasions and I've been to the Lions Village on numerous occasions. However, I'd never met so many bushwalkers that were there from all over Victoria, and it was just wonderful to see all these people coming in, bushwalkers coming in to the Wellington Shire to walk amongst our beautiful mountains. So thank you very much for the hospitality that they gave me. And Federation Bushwalks actually started way back in 1941, or actually 1935, and then during the war it ceased and it continued on, and it's a gathering of all bushwalking clubs, and they are a wealth of knowledge. And if anyone hasn't been to Lycola, pop on up to Lycola and drive further up to the mountains. It was a lovely weekend. And also, that was a beautiful weekend. Weather-wise, absolutely perfect. Now, last Saturday, another acknowledgement I'd like to make. It wasn't so nice weather, however, and our Mayor, Councillor By, came to open the Anglican Fair in Stratford, which they've had for the last 2 or 3 years. And because out in Stratford they don't have a lot of public events for young children, and the Anglican Church over the last 3 years, and I'll acknowledge that go back to the Fed walks, that we assist them financially and we assist the Anglican Church financially for the people of Stratford. But it wasn't a nice day, it wasn't predicted to be a nice day. However, it didn't rain, so everyone had an absolutely wonderful time, and it never rained till it was over. So they're 2 wonderful things that have been in the Wellington Shire that I've had the privilege and pleasure to attend. Thank you.
Well said, Councillor Ripper. Item 9, questions on notice. I believe we have none. Item 10, Delegates Report. I believe we have none. Item 11, Assembly of Councillors. Can I ask someone to move that, please? Councillor Crosley.
It's my big moment. Okay. I move that Council note and receive the attached Assembly of Councillor record for the period 7th of March 2022 to the 27th of March 2022.
And seconded by Councillor Rossetti. Is that motion opposed? If not, that motion is carried. Councillor Crosley.
Just that this is a requirement to record when and where the staff and councillors meet, just so it's recorded for the future. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Crosley. Item 11.2, Audit and Risk Committee Minutes. Do I have someone to move that? Councillor McKenzie.
Thank you, Mayor. I move the Council receive and note the minutes in brief of the Audit and Risk Committee, the 7th of March 2022 as attached, and the confidential attachment Audit and Risk Committee minutes of the 7th of March 22 and point 2 as read.
Do I have someone to second that? Councillor Ripper. Is that motion opposed? If not, that motion is carried. Councillor McKenzie.
Thank you, Mayor. The first meeting for 2021 of the Audit and Risk Committee took place on the 7th of March via both face-to-face and hybrid. The Audit and Risk Committee's charter is to provide independent advice and recommendations to Council, and is an advisory committee only. Since our last committee meeting in late 2020, 2 new external members have been appointed, Sarah Heath and Tony Smith, and welcome them to the committee. Thank you, CEO. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank Kia Cashman for her input over the past 12 months and wish her well in her new endeavours. During the meeting, we received presentations from the Council CEO, GM Corporate Services, Manager Corporate Finance, Manager Information Services, Manager People and Capability, and executives from our auditors, HLB Man Judd. During the committee meeting, there was in excess of 27 items covered, such as internal audit report, organisational/legislative compliance, review of council policies, a VAGA report on the audit of 2020-21 for local government, updated strategic risks, information services and cyber security update, which is significant in this time, financials and fraud reports, excessive staff leave liability. The Audit and Risk Committee received 100% support from the executive and council officers, always looking for improvements and never being negative with any suggestions or recommendations, and thank them very much for their support. Finally, it is with pleasure to also announce that Chris Badger was reappointed chair unopposed, and looking forward to working with the committee for the balance of 2021. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor McKenzie. Item 11.3, Approval of Instruments of Appointment and Authorisation, Planning and Environment Act 1987 only, for Laura Pospisil, Statutory Planner. Do I have someone to move that?
Thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Ripper.
Thank you. I'd like to move that Council, in the exercise of the powers conferred by Section 224 of the Local Government Act 1989, the Act Section 147(4) of the Planning and Environment Act 1987, and the other legislation referred to in the attached instrument Council Resolution and of Appointment and Authorisation, resolve that Council Officer Laura Pospisil be appointed and authorised as set out in the instrument as provided at attachments 1 and 2 and 2. The S11A Instrument of Appointment and Authorisation be signed and sealed by the Chief Executive Officer.
Do I have someone to second that? Councillor Stevens. Is that motion opposed? If not, that motion is carried.
Thank you,
Councillor
Mayor.
Ripper.
The background is Section 224 of the Local Government Act 1989. Currently this remains and safe provision under the 1989 Act, and there is no provision under the 2020 Act at this time. Provides the appointment of a council officer to be an authorised officer of the administration, enforcement of a number of acts set out in, as we've said in the body of what I read out, that this is just doing due diligence in making sure that all the proper areas are clearly stated and moved within council. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Ripper. Item 12.1, Quarterly Building Report, October to December 2021. Do I have someone to move that? Councillor Marr.
I'm happy to move that, Mayor. Thank you. I move that Council note the report of building permits issued from the 1st of October 2021 to the 31st of December 2021.
Do I have someone to second that? Councillor Crosley. Is that motion opposed? If not, that motion is carried. Councillor Marr.
Thank you, Mayor. This building permit report was issued for the quarter of October to December 2021. The permits were issued by private surveyors and filed with council. The attachments provide graphic trends for Gippsland, the Gippsland wider region and Wellington Shire. Permits issued outline and show an overview by townships, which include the number of permits issued along with the estimated values of those works. 291 permits were actually issued with an estimated value of 45 million as compared to our last quarter of 50 million. Major projects across this period include the Max Creek Works, Wagunga Learning Place, which was a total of $805,467. The Maffra Tennis Club, which totalled $12.4 million worth of works. The Sale National Australia Bank relocation and fit out, which came to an estimated cost value of $9.9 million, and I'm sure many of us have seen that, and it certainly looks quite good. The Longford, Maffra, Sale and Stratford areas are still continuing to experience an increased level of residential interest and development, with Stratford having 27 applications at a total cost of $3.63 million. Longford 14 applications with a total estimated cost of $3.8 million. Yarram had 13 applications with a value of $570,000, and I have to mention Port Albert. There were 4 applications at a total costing of $363,335. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Marr. Item 12.2, Quarterly Strategic Land Use Planning Update, Quarter 1 2022. Can I have someone to move that, please? Councillor
I'm happy
Marr.
to move that, Mayor, as well. Thank you. I move that Council receive the first quarterly update on the Strategic Land Use Planning Work Program included in Attachment Planning Project and amendments to this report.
Do I have someone to second that? Councillor Crosley. Is that motion opposed? If not, that motion is carried. Councillor Marr.
Well, thank you, Mayor. I'll just touch on a couple of highlights rather than reading through the whole of the report, if I may. The North Sale Developer Contributions Plan, the estimated completion is during the period of 21-22. An associated draft infrastructure funding arrangement has now been prepared, and a copy of the draft was distributed to all landowners for their comment. One-on-one meetings have been held with a number of interested parties where further explanation and discussion of the infrastructure plan was done. All feedback taken on board will be considered and used to inform the final report. The West Sale and Warwick Industrial Land Strategy. A recommended action of the strategy was the preparation of several detailed technical reports which addressed issues along the lines of cultural heritage, vegetation, drainage and traffic matters. These reports have now been completed. However, they have identified several matters that need to be continued under investigation, and this work needs to be undertaken prior to finalising these reports. The MAFRA structure plan. A draft MAFRA structure plan was publicly exhibited between the 15th of November 2021 and the 17th of January 2022. All feedback has been used to inform the final structure plan. It's anticipated that the plan will be presented to Council for formal adoption in May of 2022, and I'm sure, Mayor, that you can agree that we'll certainly look forward to seeing that on the table. The residential land supply stocktake. At the Council meeting of the 1st of February 2022, Council resolved to adopt the Residential Stocktake and Facilitation Strategy Report. A key recommendation was the preparation of a formal Wellington-specific policy to provide a transparent and logical basis for future Council decisions relating to a possible forward funding of key development infrastructures, which would better expedite greenfield growth across the Shire. Work will now commence on the drafting of the Council policy. Sale Western Growth Area Development Plan. A detailed development plan was a draft development plan was released for targeted engagement with affected landowners. A total of 15 submissions were received. All feedback will be considered to inform the final development plan for Council's consideration in due course. And the C109, Implementation of Smart Planning and Planning in the Economic Growth Zone recommendations. At a meeting of the 2nd of June 2020, Council resolved to seek authorisation from the Minister for planning to formally proceed with this amendment, and the request for authorisation is currently being sought. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Marr. Item 13.1, Park Avenue Cowwarr Special Charge Scheme, intention to declare. Do I have someone to move that? Councillor Crosley.
Thank you, Mayor. It is with great delight that I move that 1. Council commence the statutory process under the Local Government Act 1989, the Act, to declare a special charge scheme for the purpose of constructing Park Avenue in Cowwarr and the provision of improved road drainage, including driveway crossings and culverts for the road edge to property line. And 2, Council, in accordance with section 163(1)(a) and 163(b)(3) of the Act, direct that a public notice be given in the Gippsland Times newspaper and on Council's website of the intention of Council to declare the scheme at its ordinary meeting to be held on the 6th of September 2022 in accordance with the proposed declaration of a special charge scheme number 2202 in the form of the attached to this report of the construction of Park Avenue in Cowwarr. And 3, Council direct that in accordance with section 163(1)(c) of the Act, separate letters enclosing a copy of the public notice to be sent to the owners of the properties referred to and set out in the schedule of properties forming a part of the proposed declaration of special charge, advising of the intention of Council to declare the special charge at its ordinary meeting to be held on the 6th of September 2022, and the basis of the calculation and distribution of the special charge, and notifying such persons that submissions and or objections in writing in relation to the proposed declaration of special charge will be considered under or taken into account by Council in accordance with section 163A, 163B and 223 of the Act. And 4, Council appoint 3 councillors, being Councillor Crossley, Councillor Ripper and Councillor Bye, as determined by Council, plus an alternative representative, being Councillor Tatterson, to form the Park Avenue Special Charge Scheme Submission Committee that is established by Council under Section 223 1BI of the Act, to consider written submissions, objections and to hear any persons who in their written submission under Section 223 of the Act have requested that they are heard in support of their submissions. And 5, the Chief Executive Officer in the person for the time being acting in that position be authorised to give public notice of the proposed declaration of special charge in accordance with Section 163B and 223 of the Local Government Act 1983. And 6, the Chief Executive Officer and General Manager Built and Natural Environment, or the Managing Built Environment, or the person for the time being acting in any of those positions, each be authorised to carry out any and all of the administrative procedures necessary to enable Council to carry out its functions under Section 163A and Section 163 1A, 1B and 1C and Section 163B and 223 of the Act.
Well done, Councillor Crossley. And I have a seconder in Councillor Rossetti already. Is that motion opposed? If not, that motion is carried. Councillor Crossley.
Thank you, and I must thank the hard-working team in this section. It's been a long time coming. This is quite a short road. There's only 7 landowners along that street, and so it's been quite difficult to actually get the numbers. You know, only a couple of people have to abstain, and somebody doesn't reply, and one person doesn't get it, and you don't get over that 60%. But fortunately, we finally got there, so I know they'll be thrilled. There's been some difficulty there with drainage, especially with these fairly regular weather events, because it's basically just a gravel road and a few ditches. And that hasn't been able to be looked at until they get the road scheme. You can't do drainage without a road scheme. So I know this is a long process. I did have some conversations with the community and members of the street, and they're very pleased that it's going ahead. They probably wanted it done yesterday, but as you can see by all of this wording and various bits and pieces, it is a process. The process has started, and I'm sure they'll be thrilled and look forward to the outcome. But thank you for the team. I know there's been quite a bit of work of the engineers department going out and chatting and having a look at that area to get this scheme home. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Crossley. Item 14.1, Council Committees and Committees of Management highlights. Do I have someone to move that?
Thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Ripper.
I'd like to move that Council receive the report, highlighted activities and achievements of various Council advisory committees and community facilities. Committees of Management for the period November 2021 to February 2022.
Do I have someone to second that? Councillor Crossley. Sorry, I've missed Councillor Stevens. Sorry, Councillor Stevens. Councillor Crossley was a whisker before you. Is that motion opposed? If not, that motion is carried. Councillor Ripper.
Thank you, Mayor. Various councillors are on committees throughout the Shire of... we've got Gippsland Regional Sporting Complex, Business Boost Reference Group, the Municipal Emergency Management, Wellington Youth Services and the other community assets, and I'm just picking out 2 or 3 there, it's not the whole list, like the Maffra Rec Reserve, Gordon Street Reserve, Cameron Sporting Complex, etc, etc. And most of those, and especially when we get over to the community assets committees, they're all volunteers, and we do have volunteers in all the other groups. Now the volunteers in our Wellington Shire of 1,100 square kilometres and about 40-odd thousand population, I continue to say how volunteers are one, and there are other assets, but a very, very great asset that we've got, because without our volunteers volunteering for the betterment of the community, for the betterment of the young people and for everyone, we'd be at an absolute loss. And I continue to see what volunteers do and the enthusiasm of the looking at their oval or looking at the basketball courts or anything like that. They are so proud of them. So I am really pleased that we've got a lovely lot of volunteers and other paid workers who are involved in this. So thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Ripper. Item 15, further gallery and online comments. Do we have anyone in the gallery that would like to speak at the council meeting today? No? Is there any other online comments?
None have come in, Mayor.
None have come in? In that case, I will declare the meeting closed at 3:25. Thank you, everyone.